time speeds up faster than you think. If you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing and liking the video. It truly helps the channel grow and continue to create contents like this. Morning used to feel wide. When I was young, a day could stretch forever. Summer felt like a whole life. A school year was an eternity. Even a month felt heavy with possibilities, like you could fill it up with mistakes and still have room left over. At 90, time feels different. It doesn't feel like a road anymore. It feels like a river. And it moves faster than you think. People talk about the years flying by. Like it's a joke, like it's something you say at birthdays with a chuckle and a shrug. But when you reach my age, it isn't a joke. It's a physical sensation. You look up, and decades have slipped by the way a train slips past a platform, fast, loud, and gone before you've finished realizing it's there. I remember turning 30 and thinking, I've got time. Plenty of it. I remember turning 40 and thinking, okay, the serious years have started, but still, there's time. I remember turning 50 and feeling something new, a subtle pressure, like the sun was setting a little earlier than it used to. Then 60 came and the pressure became a hum. 70 came and the hum became a drumbeat. And then suddenly it felt like the calendar pages weren't turning anymore, they were flipping. It's hard to explain to someone who hasn't felt it. When you're young, you live forward. You think forward. You plan forward. You imagine the future like it's a continent you'll eventually reach and settle on. But when you're old, you look backward, and the distance doesn't make sense. 50 years ago feels both far and strangely close. Like a dream you can still taste. I think about my first house. We painted the walls ourselves. The paint smell was sharp and exciting, like we were building a new life out of thin air. We had a couch that sagged in the middle and a kitchen table that wobbled if you leaned too hard. We didn't have much, but time felt abundant. We'd sit on the floor and eat cheap takeout, laughing at nothing, believing we were at the beginning of everything. That house is gone now. So long ago. The neighborhood changed. New families, new fences. If I drive by, I can barely recognize it. But in my mind, I can still see the light through the blinds in the early morning. I can still hear my wife humming. I can still hear my children's feet on the hallway floor. And the strangest part is how quickly those sounds became memories. Here's the lesson: time speeds up faster than you think because your brain starts recording less of it. When everything is new, you remember it. Your first job. Your first love. Your first apartment. Your first road trip with friends. Newness slows time because it makes impressions. But when your days become routines, wake up, work, errands, sleep, your mind stops recording the details. You live on autopilot. And autopilot is like pressing fast forward. That's why people reach my age and say, "Where did it go?" It didn't vanish. It was spent. Quietly. Mostly on ordinary days that blended together. I used to postpone meaningful experiences because I thought I was being practical. I'd say, "We'll travel when the kids are older. We'll take that trip when work slows down. I'll visit my friend when things calm down. I'll spend more time with my parents when I have a break." But life doesn't often calm down. It shifts. It changes costumes. The calendar keeps filling itself unless you guard it. And then something happens: the kids grow. The parents age. The friends drift. The body changes. The window you assumed would stay open begins to close without asking your permission. I remember a friend named Peter who always talked about going to Italy. He kept a little book on his shelf, photos of Rome and Florence, the kind of book that smells like glossy paper and dreams. Every year he'd say, "Next year I'm going." Every year he worked a little more, saved a little more, waited a little more. At 58, he got sick. Not a dramatic tragedy at first, just fatigue, just aches. Then tests. Then appointments. Then a diagnosis that made the room go silent. He never went to Italy. The book stayed on the shelf like a promise that never matured. At his funeral, his daughter told me he'd once whispered, "I thought I had time." That sentence is a knife because it's so common. So many of us live as if time is a guaranteed resource. We treat meaningful moments like they're always available on the shelf, waiting until we're ready. But readiness is another trick. Readiness doesn't arrive with a trumpet. Most of the best moments happen when you're not ready, when your hair is messy and your schedule is full and you're tempted to say no. The moment asks, and you either step into it or you let it pass. If you want to know what regret feels like at 90, it's not always about big mistakes. It's about the small laters, the small deferrals, the little ways you told life, not now, without realizing life doesn't always circle back. I can still see my father sitting in his chair in the evening, the same chair every night, hands folded, eyes heavy. He worked hard his whole life. He provided. He did what men of his generation believed they were supposed to do. But he postponed joy. He postponed rest. He postponed adventures. One day, when he was in his late 70s, I asked him if he had any regrets. He stared at the wall for a long time, then said, "I thought I'd have more summers." That's what time does. It turns summers into a measurable thing. It turns holidays into a limited edition. It turns one day into maybe not. I don't say this to make you anxious. I say it to wake you gently. Because the goal isn't to panic about time. The goal is to stop treating it like it's endless. If you're listening and you're young, you might roll your eyes. I understand. I would have too. I would have thought, of course an old man thinks time is short, he's old. But that's the point. You will be old sooner than you think. Not tomorrow. But sooner. The years don't ask permission. They just happen. And the speed is sneaky. It's like driving on a highway for hours. You don't feel the movement until you look at the map and realize you've crossed states. So what do? You create time anchors. Moments that break routine and force your mind to record. You travel, even if it's close. You take photos, yes, but more importantly, you take mental snapshots, the smell, the laughter, the feeling. You learn something new. You have dinners with friends that run long. You visit the people you love while they can still open the door. You take a walk at sunset and don't rush it. You stop postponing small joys because you're waiting for a big joy. Because the big joy is often made of small ones. In the next part, I'll tell you about the moment I truly felt the acceleration, how one ordinary afternoon made me realize that the later I'd been counting on was already behind me, and how I learned to live in a way that slows time down again, at least inside the heart. I remember the day my grandson asked me, "Grandpa, what was it like when you were my age?" He said it with that innocent curiosity kids have, like they think the past is a movie you can rewind. I opened my mouth to answer, and suddenly I realized I couldn't remember whole chunks. Not because I had dementia, because nothing distinct had marked those years. Too much routine. Too much rushing. Too much sameness. That's when I understood, if you don't live deliberately, your life becomes harder to remember. And if it becomes harder to remember, it feels shorter. We think time is disappearing, but often it's our attention that disappeared first. So tonight, before you sleep, pick one memory from today. One small detail. The taste of something. The look on someone's face. The sound of the wind. Hold it for a moment like a coin in your palm. That is how you slow down the river, by noticing the water as it passes. That ordinary afternoon I mentioned happened when I was 64. I was still working then, still busy, still convinced I was in the middle of my life, not the later chapters. It was a Wednesday. Nothing special. The sky was pale and flat, the kind of day that doesn't beg to be remembered. I was in a hardware store looking for a replacement part for something I can't even recall now. A hinge, maybe? A screw. Some little piece that seemed important at the time. In the aisle, I saw a young man with his toddler on his shoulders. The child was laughing, tugging at the father's hair, pointing at things with the authority only toddlers have. The father was smiling in that tired, delighted way that says, "I can't believe this is my life." I watched them for maybe 10 seconds. Then I felt a wave of emotion so strong it surprised me. Not envy exactly. Not sadness exactly. something like grief mixed with tenderness. Because I realized my children were no longer toddlers. They were grown. They had lives. They had schedules. They had their own worries. And I couldn't remember the last time one of them sat on my shoulders. It hit me with the force of a door closing. Not a slam, just a soft click. The toddler years were gone. The teenage years were gone. Even the young adult years were slipping away. I stood there holding a package of screws and realized I had been postponing too much. I had been waiting for the right time. To slow down, to travel, to call, to visit, to sit longer at the table. And somewhere in the waiting, time had quietly moved me forward. That's what acceleration feels like. It isn't dramatic. It's the realization that certain seasons are one-way doors. You don't get unlimited chances to hold your child's small hand. You don't get unlimited summers with your parents while they're still strong. You don't get unlimited evenings with your closest friends before life scatters everyone. You don't get unlimited mornings where your body feels easy. Most people don't notice this until they're already past the season. Then they try to reach backward with regret, and regret is a hand that closes on air. So after that day, I started doing something different. I started saying yes sooner. Yes to the visit. Yes to the weekend trip. Yes to the phone call that felt inconvenient. Yes to the walk even when I was tired. Yes to sitting on the porch for 10 minutes instead of rushing to the next task. And here's what surprised me: those yes didn't ruin my life. They made it. We worry that slowing down will cost us productivity, money, progress. Sometimes it does. But what it gives back is time that feels like time. Time you can remember. Time that becomes a story instead of a blur. I also started paying attention to the way we talk about time. We say things like killing time or wasting time. But time isn't something you kill. Time is what you are made of. Every hour you spend is an hour of your life. If you waste it, you waste yourself. Now, I'm not saying you need to be intense about every day. That's another trap, turning life into a project. The point is to stop living like meaningful moments can be scheduled for later. Later is not a place. It's a story we tell ourselves to avoid choosing now. If you want a practical way to live this, I'll give you a few questions I wish I'd asked sooner. First, if I keep living exactly like this, what will I miss? Not in a vague way. In a concrete way. Will you miss your child's curiosity? Will you miss your friend's presence? Will you miss the chance to travel while your legs still work? Will you miss the quiet moments with your partner before the house empties? Second, what is one thing I keep postponing that would actually matter? Not a huge bucket list. One thing. A weekend away. A dinner with your parents. A day off with your kids. A conversation you've been avoiding. A creative project you keep delaying. Third, if I had 5 years left, would I still be waiting? That question isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to clarify you. Because 5 years is both short and long. And for many people, 5 years passes like a season. The truth is, you don't need to wait for a crisis to wake up. You can wake up in the middle of an ordinary week and choose presence as your rebellion. I remember taking my wife to a small diner after that hardware store day. Nothing fancy. We sat in a booth with cracked vinyl seats. She ordered pie. I watched her eat, the way she held the fork, the way she smiled when the bite was good. I realized I'd spent years eating beside her while thinking about something else. That night I stayed. I stayed in the moment until it filled up my whole chest. She looked at me and said, "You're quiet tonight." I said, "I'm trying to remember this." She laughed softly. "You don't have to remember it. Just be here." That's the core of the lesson. You don't slow time by gripping it. You slow it by inhabiting it. There's another strange thing about aging: you start measuring life in lasts, without realizing it. The last time you pick your child up. The last time you sleep in the same house. The last time your friend calls you buddy. The last time you see your mother in the doorway. We don't know when the last will be. That's what makes it precious. So if you're young, treat firsts with reverence. First apartment. First job. First love. They feel like beginnings because they are. And treat ordinary days with reverence too, because ordinary days are what you'll miss most. When you're my age, you don't crave fireworks. You crave ordinary. You crave one more slow breakfast with someone you love. One more walk where your body cooperates. One more conversation that wanders. Ordinary is the gold you didn't realize you were stepping on. Time speeds up faster than you think, but you can choose how you spend it. You can choose to stop postponing meaning. Call the friend you keep thinking about. Book the trip you keep delaying, even if it's a small one. Take the photo, yes, but also look up and breathe it in. Sit with your kid for 10 minutes without your phone. Visit your parents while they can still tell you the same stories. Tell someone you love them while they can still hear it. And if you feel resistance, I'm too busy, I'll do it later, I need to get my life together first. Recognize that resistance for what it is, fear disguised as practicality. Fear of change. Fear of spending money. Fear of being present because presence makes life feel real, and real life includes loss. But loss comes anyway. Presence at least gives you the memories that make the loss bearable. I keep a small list now, things I don't postpone. Birthdays. Calls to my children. Time outside when the weather is good. Apologies. Gratitude. Saying yes when my grandson asks me to play, even if my back complains. Because I know how fast seasons close. If you want to honor time, don't try to outrun it. Walk with it. Notice it. Spend it on people and moments that will matter when the calendar pages are gone. One day, sooner than you expect, you'll look back and realize your life is not made of years. It's made of moments. And the moments you chose not to postpone will be the ones that glow. So tonight, choose one meaningful thing you've been delaying. 1. Then take one step toward it. Not tomorrow. Today. Because time is already moving, and your real life is happening in the only place it ever happens, right now.